It was my first time living alone. No parents, no roommates, my own place. My credit score wasn't stellar, so I had to settle for an uglier apartment in a worse part of the city. I wasn't too concerned though. I have a ton of posters to make the apartment prettier. And yeah, I'm a woman, but I also have a taser and pepper spray. What I really liked was that the apartment was close to public transit, so I could go to all the fun stuff easily. The bars, the street festivals, the good but expensive restaurants were all a stop away. It was pretty cool, and my landlord lived in the next unit. Usually that would be kind of a vibe kill, but he was alright. Didn't care too much, very lax, but always ready when I needed stuff repaired. A rare find. The only issue was the noise. At night I could hear a dull thumping in the walls. It wasn't loud and I could sleep at night, but it was still annoying. It would always start around 10 p.m. and it was still going when I got up at 6. It sounded like the wood was getting pressed on and bumped into. I reported it to the landlord and he said it was probably pipes or something. Nothing to worry about, pretty much. I was kind of chilling for the most part. I would meet up with friends and go to yoga classes. The only thing was bringing someone home. When I brought a guy home, he always said the banging creeped him out. He couldn't sleep from the noise, so I stopped hooking up in my place. I would go to theirs. I learned to live with the banging. As long as I was well rested for work the next day, it wasn't that bad. One morning I was showering for work when I heard the banging in the walls. It was earlier than usual, or later, whichever. I didn't have my coffee yet, breakfast neither, so when I banged back it felt like a rational response. I could sleep through it, but disrupting my morning routine pissed me off. I smacked the walls so hard the front of my shower fell off. Not the whole head, but that grate that makes the water a shower instead of a stream. When that grate fell off, I saw a little flick of light, like a reflection off a mirror. I looked in and saw a little lens inside the shower head. I freaked out. I called my landlord repeatedly. He never picked up, but I heard a vibrating in the walls. That's when I grabbed what I could carry, called sick out of work, ran out and called the police. When they came, I led them right to the shower, the lens still embedded in the shower head. They searched the whole building. The police found dozens of cameras in different parts of my apartment. There was one in the smoke detector above my bed. When I told him about the banging in the walls at night, I told him it was nothing. My landlord said it was just pipes. They checked the walls and found a network of tunnels. Someone had been crawling through my walls and planting cameras all over the place. They tried calling my landlord, he didn't pick up. I tried calling him. He blocked my number. He disappeared. They never found him, and when I broke the lease and moved out 8 months early, he never contacted me about rent. I filed a report, but it's probably going nowhere. I'm back in that roommate life now. My credit score, I couldn't find another place on my own. My roommates are really cool and really nice. I always do my dishes and clean the floors and stuff. The last thing I need is to lose this place now. I haven't told them why I left my last place so fast, and I'm not going to. With all of us here and no banging, we're probably not being spied on by the landlord. And if we are, at least I'm not alone. My girlfriend just broke up with me, so I rented an Airbnb by the beach. I thought I would go away for a while and swim, drink, and party until she was completely out of mind. I found a nice, cheap apartment and a duplex available for the weekend. The price was crazy. It was on the beach and next to a hot bar. I was expecting something like this to go for thousands. It was only a couple hundred. I got there Friday night. The host wasn't around, but the key was in a lockbox in the mailbox. He had sent me the code after I paid, so I opened it and went inside. It was spotless and decorated pretty nice. I went upstairs, showered, changed, and hit the bar in 30 minutes. I don't remember much before waking up in bed with a 10 still asleep beside me. I kicked her out and made breakfast and hit the beach. Just a few weeks after the breakup and I already had my groove back. The beach was great, hot chicks, and the water was the perfect temperature. Then home for a little dinner, then to the bar. I tried to find a different bar, but I guess I didn't do enough research because the only one listed on Google was the beach bar next door. I went again and drank with all the hotties I saw on the beach. It was fun. I was grinding on a bunch of different hot girls, taking shots, having a good time. The next morning I woke up with the same woman in my bed from the night before. That was weird. I wasn't trying to really deal with anyone at that point. We probably just hit it off though. I wrote it off, thought it wasn't that deep. She knew to leave as soon as she got up, and I made breakfast and got ready to enjoy my last day and night in the rental. That night I went to the bar again. It was much emptier than the last 2 nights, but it was Sunday, so whatever. The girl I hooked up with the last 2 nights was there. So were a few people I'd seen at the beach. Nobody was dancing. There wasn't any music. When I walked in, they all looked at me. I tried to ignore it. It was creepy, but maybe I came too early for the turn-up. I went to the bar and ordered a drink. The bartender gave me a look and turned around. He seemed to shift around while making the drink, and I couldn't see over his shoulder. I got a quick look in the mirror behind the bar and saw him stirring a pill into my drink. I turned and everyone in the bar was watching me and the bartender out of the corner of their eye. When I turned, they looked away. I suddenly realized I had to be really chill. I yawned loudly and said, "You know what, I'm pretty tired. I'll pay for the drink and I'm going to turn in early." He asked if I was sure. It was already done and it would be a waste. I apologized and got up and left, pretending I didn't see everyone watch me walk out. When I was close enough to the rental, I ran inside and began packing. I heard someone knocking at my door. Really, it was more like banging. I thought I heard the hinges rattle. I looked through the peephole and it was the woman I had hooked up with. She was leaning against the door jamb. She was flirting with me, saying all the things she wanted to do with me. She seemed really drunk. I apologized and said I was exhausted and had to pack and go home. She kept begging. I told her to go home. She snapped up quickly and walked away. I realized she wasn't drunk at all. I slammed the door, locked it, and packed up. I went outside and saw that my tires were slashed, and they were all there, everyone I had seen while I was here. I locked myself in and called an Uber. When the driver got there, they were all gone. I'm still confused and scared. What even was that? I've always loved hunting. I grew up in a hunting family, and my dad and brothers would always go on these hunting trips that would last weeks. Venison is my favorite meat. My dad's walls are still covered in deer heads. I got older, which everyone does, and so did my family. My dad couldn't go hunting anymore, and I moved several states away. I was sure to move somewhere not in the middle of the forest, but close enough to a place I could go hunting every so often. I worked in tech, where they give huge salaries and unlimited PTO. I could work from home whenever I wanted to, so I spent a lot of time out in the woods hunting for my food. It was nice being away from civilization. People are terrible. Traffic is terrible. Garbage smells terrible. The woods had no people, no traffic, and smelled like pine needles and fresh rain. I had plenty of time to build a deer head collection to rival my dad. He had 200 mounted heads. I wanted 201. I just came back from hunting a fresh kill on my truck bed and was ready to clean it. The air smelled good and clean and a little metallic from the deer. I parked, pulled the deer out of the truck, and got ready to clean it when I saw a little bow in the crushed pine needles. I laughed and thought about the family that was probably glamping here before I rented the place. I'd put the bow on one of the deer antlers when I mounted the head. That night I had venison burgers. Let me tell you, some people say store-bought meat is fine. The preservatives are nothing and don't bother you, but they've never had something as fresh as this. I went to bed full and nourished, with the bow on my nightstand so I didn't forget to put it on the buck later. I woke up the next morning and the bow was gone. I figured I'd knocked it over in the night. No great loss. My buck didn't need a bow. It was just a little joke for me. I got up, ate a venison omelet, got on my Zooms for the day, sent my emails. It was so boring. I just wanted to go out and hunt again. When 5 o'clock hit, I shot up and changed into my gear. 201 was a big number. I had to grind to beat it. When I got outside, there were more bows. I could see them this time. Dozens of them in every color laying in the pine needles. This was off. I looked up in the trees like an idiot, thinking maybe someone tied them up there, and they had come down with the wind or rain, but last night was a clear sky. No wind either. I went back inside, shaken but not totally thrown off. I'd have to add to my collection another day. I streamed some movies and read, eating a venison steak and garlic potatoes. I loved my own cooking. People these days don't cook for themselves enough. None of that microwave stuff for me. Just knowing I was feeding my body properly set me at ease. I was turning off all the lights. It was late, like 11, and I was ready to turn in. I went up to the big sliding glass doors in the back of the cabin and hit the switch. Without the light, I could see clear into the night. The moonlight showed everything. The pine trees, the deer and squirrels running around, and a man. He stood behind one of the trees, smiling and holding a huge butcher's knife. He had more than a dozen bows in his hair. He saw me see him, and he came from behind the tree and walked towards the house. He raised his knife. I ran and grabbed my gun, made a show of cocking it for good measure. When he saw that, he stopped smiling and ran into the trees. I stayed up all night, and at the first crack of day, drove off as fast as I could.